Hi, and welcome to the show. Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of Cup of Jonas Show. Today I'm joined by Kenny. Howdy. Jared.
Hello.
And I am Nick. Today we're talking about Glory Road, film that was released in 2006. Yes, yeah, I know it now, yeah. This was my first encounter with this movie, actually. I had never, until a couple, I think the first episode we did our favorite movies, and you brought it up. That was the first time I'd ever heard about it. So, back in November of last year, I guess. But, yeah, so that was my first encounter with it. Today was my first time actually watching it. But, yeah, I'm excited to review this movie. It's been good, I think.
Yeah, this was my first time ever hearing about it either. Kenny brought it up about 2 days ago, and I looked at the cast list and saw that it had like 5 or 6 people I knew and really liked their work, so I was really excited to see it.
Yeah, so that's kind of the history. I don't really know if we need to go into the history of
what's
Kenny watching it, because I think
that's gonna be interesting though. Like, what was your why did you watch it for the first time? What made you say this is a movie I need to see?
Well, it wasn't me saying it. It was my parents showed it to me.
Okay.
And I loved it from the start. Because I'm a basketball guy. So
Right. How many times have you watched it, Kenny?
Ballpark
100 plus.
Oh my gosh, that's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why you have it downloaded on Amazon now.
Yeah.
I really do.
Like on the smartphones that I have and previously had before, I had this movie on there too.
Your phone's out of storage. I can't delete Glory Road. I'm sorry, these pictures of you have to go.
But we can just buy you the 4K Blu-ray. No.
No, I have to have a copy of it at all times. No, okay, that's cool though. That's cool that it's like a childhood film that you've just kind of held on to.
And now it's always on you.
It is. That's true.
Yeah,
It's strapped in your pocket all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, go ahead and Kenny's going to give us a nice plot overview. We figured he should do it since he's seen it 100 plus times now. He probably could give you a better definition. Anyways, hand it over to Kenny. I'm done talking.
So the whole movie is based on a true story. Now, we all know here, obviously, that Hollywood and real life stories are completely different. And this is one of those. So the true story is nothing like this one. We're not talking about the true story. We're talking about the Hollywood version. If you want to know the true story, you can look it up yourself. But I highly recommend you do, because it's actually really, really good. Anyway, back to the Hollywood version. It was directed by James Gartner, and the producer is Jerry Bruckheimer. I know. He's not even well known in Hollywood at all. Like TV shows with CSI, who even knows about that?
Yeah,
and National Treasure.
Yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean. Who? What?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Who is Johnny Depp? I don't know who that is.
Exactly. All joking aside, though, he's a really good producer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
He's a legend.
of course. Really, the main character, obviously, is Don Haskins. So he was Texas Western's head coach in 1961. He was not hired in 66, as the movie states.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
So
That's a big change.
so he was actually there for 5 years before he won the national championship. But so in his college days, he played at Oklahoma A&M, which is now Oklahoma State, and played for Henry Iba, who is a legend. But we're not talking about him either. So before he was actually hired at Texas Western, now called University of Texas at El Paso, he was a girls basketball coach. So when he got hired on in 61, he won 15 games. So the year before in 65, he went 18-6 and went to the NIT. For those of you who are not really basketball nuts, NIT is short for National Invitational Tournament, which is a sub-version of the NCAA tournament with lesser teams. So in 66, they went 28-1, won the national championship, beat Kansas, who is a blue blood school in college basketball, beat Kentucky in the national championship, which was just absolutely impressive, and only played 7 players in the national championship. All of his black players. So he compiled a completely stacked resume at Texas Western before retiring in 1999. So he finished 719 and 353 at Texas Western.
That's a very positive ratio.
He won 14 Western Athletic Conference championships, 4 WAC titles. WAC is a conference. Not like WAC.
Crazy title.
It's a conference. 14 NCAA tournament berths. 7 NIT trips. And 17 20-plus win seasons.
Wow.
So, the dude is a legend. He is in the Naismith Hall of Fame for college basketball. Dude's a rock star.
Yeah, sounds like it. And just for clarification, the movie is covering the season in 66.
Yes, the movie covers only the 1966 season.
Okay.
So, big stars, obviously. The guy who plays Don Haskins is Josh Lucas. And he was in Yellowstone, Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh,
He is in Ford versus Ferrari. You're right.
Yes. I recognize him from somewhere.
And I think this may be a chick flick. We may have to do research and come back to this part. But I think this is a chick flick, Sweet Alabama.
I don't know.
Never even heard of it. Maybe that is weird that I never heard of it, but
I don't know.
It's okay.
it's fine.
But I definitely know him from Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah.
I think most people are going to know him from Ford versus Ferrari, which was
At least
a great
recently.
movie, by the way.
Yes, it was.
Another one is John Voight. He plays Adolph Rupp, Kentucky's head coach. And this guy has been in numerous movies and TV shows. TV shows like 24. He's in Transformers. National Treasure, too, by the way.
He's
Jerry
classic.
Bruckheimer.
He is classic in that, yeah.
And Woodlawn, which was a football movie. And he played Paul Bear Bryant, Alabama's head coach.
He's just a head coach kind of guy when you see him. You see him, like, oh, I can see that.
So I gotta give a fun fact that I actually didn't know, which is actually kind of cool. So he was cast to play President Franklin D. Roosevelt in Pearl Harbor because Gene Hackman, who is in Hoosiers, declined the role.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And he also plays the bad guy in this, quote unquote.
Yeah, kind of.
He does.
And he also played the bad guy in the first Mission Impossible. So he's got every genre under the sun. He's been there.
Yeah, he has actually.
Yeah.
I forgot he was in Mission Impossible.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. Anyways, back to you, Ken.
And then we got Derek Luke, who plays Bobby Joe Hill, the amazing point guard for Texas Western. And he was in Captain America, the First Avenger. Gabe Jones was his character name.
Was it one of the characters like that was on the Cap's team that he would go into like
I'm
missions with?
assuming it has to be. I mean, there's nothing else.
Unless he was on the base at the beginning. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Anyways.
Interesting fact.
Yeah. He was in Friday Night Lights.
Oh.
Booby Miles.
Mm-hmm.
And then 13 Reasons Why TV show.
I watched the first little bit of that and I couldn't get past it. It was too dark for me.
It is very dark. Yeah, that is true. I've never seen that film. My sister has, or the TV series rather. But
And then Austin Nichols, who plays Jerry Armstrong, and he was in just a couple ones. The couple just stood out to me. The Day After Tomorrow.
Oh, that's the movie with
The movie about like climate change.
yeah, it's got Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever seen it.
The poster
You
is the
have.
ice-covered Statue of Liberty.
When New York, it goes after New York, and it's got all the snow, hurricanes, and all that.
I don't think I have.
The poster's iconic.
Wow. I guess we have to watch that now.
Yeah.
And he was in The Walking Dead.
He had one of the craziest deaths in The Walking Dead. If you're faint of heart, don't look for it. But if you're really interested, it is one of the most iconic deaths in the entire show.
Interesting.
All right. We're going to jump right into the plot now.
Okay.
All right. So it's actually kind of a short plot, obviously, because it's mostly basketball.
It's just the majority of basketball
Duh.
games.
I
Yeah.
mean, so hired on as Texas Western coach in movie says 66. So we're just kind of go what.
Yeah, just
the
go with the movie
says.
says. Yeah,
So,
you gave the backstory. So.
Yeah. So they kind of. It was true that they kind of lacked the financial aspect of everything. They weren't, out there looking for players all the time or what have you, and they weren't competing for NCAA tournament berths or national championships or anything like that. So the guys that he wants, guys that actually want to compete and all that stuff. He doesn't want, guys that are bench riders,
Right.
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So the guys that he saw that he was basically given were not ones that he really wanted to use. He wanted to bring in his own guys, obviously.
Didn't want to have to ride the coattails of someone who had already brought those players on.
Right. And the guys that were there were kind of raw, and they lacked the talent that he wanted them to have.
Mm.
So they go out, they look for players at different scouting areas. And at the time, this is during the whole racial aspect of the United States, where mostly colleges, specifically the cream of the crop schools like Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, were getting all the good white players.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't a lot of schools going after, all of the African-American black players.
Mm-hmm.
So they were kind of left out to dry, basically. So when Don Haskins and his assistants go out to look for players, he's trying to get, the good white players because, well, why, at the time, why wouldn't you?
Right.
And when he does, all of those players decline, or they're already going to Kansas, Kentucky, Duke, what have you. So he's starting to realize that, if I want to get players that want to come here, I probably should start looking at the black players. So he does. The first one that the movie shows that him going after is Bobby Joe Hill. So when he goes and asks, I'm going to say some guy because the movie never says who the guy is, after the scouting game. So he goes and asks, and guy was like, "You can't be playing this kind of ball, dude." But he's like, "Just tell me where I can find him." So he goes down into the locker room, and Bobby Joe is kind of packing up stuff and leaving for the night. And Don Haskins asks, "Do you want to come and play at Texas Western?" And the guy was like, Bobby Joe goes, ever since I was a kid, I've dreamed of playing basketball, and it's what I've grown up with. And he says, it's like making sweet music with your game. And he says, the only thing is you don't want to hear the song. Thinking that the only reason why Don was actually talking to him was because he wanted him to ride the bench. And just doing it out of, well, I kind of have to, but I don't want to. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's a very powerful scene.
Right. And Don goes, that's not the reason why I'm talking to you. I want you to play. I want you to actually be a starter on the team. And so Bobby Joe gets kind of upset and slams the locker clothes and walks out. You get to the gym, and that's where, you actually hear Don go, I actually want you to start in the NCAA. Like, you're going to start college ball. Which is not something that a black player would do right off the bat, obviously, in that time. So Bobby Joe gets brought in, and then it goes to Don and his assistants, Mo, who actually followed him for most of his career. And I need to look up the actual guy's name because it's gonna Ross Moore, the spiritual advisor of the team.
Yes, yeah, that was. Are funny.
These so the first guy, Mo, you said he's the younger guy in the movie?
Yeah, he's the younger guy who kind of
who gets his clothes taken.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yes. So yeah, it cuts to them, and I'm assuming a bar. It looked like a bar, and they're playing pool. And Mo actually, I think it finally clicks that the players on his scouting list are black players. Mm-hmm. And Don goes, well, I want players who can rebound the ball. That's basically it. He never said, I'm looking for black players. He said, I just want players who can play. And so Ross Moore kind of gave him the unofficial rules back then of how to use black players, like play 2 at home, 3 on the road, what have you. He does that, and then Mo's like, we have to go to New York. How are we going to get out there? He goes, and Don hands him, I think it's like $100.
Yeah.
He has a wad of money.
Yeah.
I think maybe like $700 or
whatever.
It was crazy.
It was everything he had in his wallet, it seemed.
It was pretty close to that. He goes, you're on the first bus to New York tomorrow. Like, going to New York to recruit black players. You're white. That's...
Well, and he didn't have a lot of, information on these people. He knew their names.
Right, exactly.
That's all. I mean, and maybe it's different than the real life story, too. But, I mean, in the movie, he just has, a list of these names that this guy from New York has given him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's it. That's all he has. And he just has to go find these people. And you're like, okay,
And, this is the 60s. You can't just look on their Facebooks to see where they live.
Right.
Yeah. Right. You actually
have to go to, phone books and
you actually got to
ask around.
Or actually go.
Yeah.
And find the people.
And that's what he does.
And he does. And so Mo goes out to New York to recruit, I think, 4 players, while Don and Ross drive up to Gary to recruit 2 players. So while Mo's out in New York, he has a weird interaction, run-in with the players that he's recruiting and the other players that are playing with the ones that they're Texas Western's trying to recruit. And he uses the word colored, which is what they would use back then too. But all the players were like, "Did you just call us colored?"
They're the only people there.
Right, exactly. And it's like one of the players who wasn't being recruited was like, I don't think he was talking about no television set either.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
Kind of making like a joke of it, but
Mm-hmm.
it really wasn't a joke. It was
Oh yeah.
like, so Mo gets, looks like he got his clothes taken away.
Just some of them. He's not like butt naked in New York.
He's
or
left with a
anything.
tank top and a white tank top and white shorts.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very
Knee high,
fashionable.
almost like ankle high socks and
Mhm.
shoes.
Mhm.
Just-
Did he lose his car too? I think he
They
lost
said
the
they
car.
said something about you got a nice car, mister.
Right, exactly. And then he asked, well, he's on the phone with the coach Don Haskins, and he's like, "Do you think you could
Wire me?
You think you can wire me another $100?"
And then it zooms out to just a picture of him in the phone booth with his clothes gone. And
Right, exactly.
It's so funny.
And then while Don and Ross are up in Gary, they find Harry Flournoy, who was one of the guys they were going after, playing one-on-one with another guy while they're at work. And he's trying to ask Harry to talk to him. He's like, "Hey, kid, you got a minute?" Well, Harry looks over and he sees Don, who, I mean, he doesn't know him yet, but he sees a
Yeah.
white guy standing at the fence
In a black neighborhood.
in a black neighborhood, and he's asking him to come over and talk to him. Usually talking.
That's not good.
Usually talking to means
Yeah.
in that time was
It could mean literally anything.
exactly. So they start walking off. Well, they go. It cuts to the two guys, Harry and the other guy, like walking inside the fence, and then Don and Ross are in the car, and Don goes, "Hey, kid, you got a minute?" Again. They're like, "All right, we need to go."
Book it.
And they start running. So and then it cuts to Harry walking back to his house. Obviously, he lived. Looks like the movie picture depicts him living with his mom.
Mhm.
So he goes in. He tells his mom, "It's like I had a weird run-in with a white guy," and he's like, "I'm just dying for a piece of that." And he pauses because he realizes
As he comes around the corner.
around the corner that, well, Don beat him to
His own house.
his own house.
The power of a car.
And Don is eating the piece of that
Apple pie.
the piece of the pie. It looks like apple pie, but it could be peach.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think they might have
A
said
very
apple pie.
specific detail that we need to know.
Yes.
Oh yes, very specific.
Call
'cause
the estate of Don Haskins and ask him what pie was he really eating.
Yes, exactly. So, and then Harry Harry doesn't sit down. His mom makes him sit down because she goes, this guy here wants you to play basketball at Texas Western for under a scholarship.
Full ride too. He's at
full ride
for
scholarship.
all these players.
Exactly. And Harry's kind of like, well, I have work. There's schools here. And his mom is basically his mom got the pitch from Don, and she loved it, and she was on board. And whatever Harry said didn't matter because he was going to Texas Western anyway. So Harry Flournoy gets recruited. Well, his mom got recruited, and Harry went to Texas Western. Let's just be honest here.
And while we're talking about him, I don't know if you're going to bring it up later, but the actor who plays him, Mekhed Brooks, he's a kind of a more modern legend in his own right. He got to play Jax in the new Mortal Kombat movie that came out a few years ago. And he was Jimmy Olsen in the Supergirl TV show on the CW. A character that's usually a white redhead in the comics and stuff. They cast a black man to play him, which really speaks to how good of an actor he is. That they would choose to get rid of the whole, well, in the comics, to actually pick the person who's right for the job.
Except that they canceled the show.
Well, they finished it. They did the whole run.
Oh, okay, that's good.
They did a 5 or 6 season run, and for most of it, it was solid. He was one of the reasons why it was so solid. He was the heart and soul of that show for a while.
Well, I don't have to bring it up. I'll just give a little bit more. So yeah, Harry Flournoy played by we already know Mechhead Brooks. He was also in Desperate Housewives for 05-06. True Blood.
Oh wow, didn't know about these either. I don't watch any of that stuff.
He was in 10 episodes of Law and Order.
Oh, that's a recurring character.
He was a detective in the regular Law and Order. Detective in Law and Order Organized Crime, just 1 episode, and 2 episodes of Law and Order SVU.
Oh wow, so he had a pretty good Law and Order career.
This dude is like stacked. Actually, he's still in Law and Order because that's 22 through 23.
Yeah, because they just brought that back, didn't they?
Yeah. So, the dude's got a pretty good
career. Yeah, I just get off my. I really like him as an actor, so I really wanted to make sure that we brought that out.
I don't mind that little tangent. I loved it. So I got to remember where we left off. Harry Flournoy and Gary.
Yeah, he gets recruited.
By
he gets
mom.
recruited, and then it goes to. I gotta remember all the characters. So we got Willie Worsley. Then Willie Cager, his nickname in the movie, we'll find that out. We'll find that out later. Is Scoops, and then Neville Shedd are in a bus. They're traveling to El Paso, and they're kind of making jokes about all the landscape because it looks different than what they've seen.
Roadkill on the side of the road.
Exactly. So they're it's probably like former players on the side of the road trying to get back to New York.
Yeah. Because these are the 3 that were recruited in New York.
And then Neville Shedd asks Willie for a dime because he wants to call his mom because he was like, I'm going to be the first black man on the moon because they thought they were on the he thought he was on the moon. And then so we have that, and then they get to the campus. And they're walking around and they're joking about you see a bunch of guys wearing cowboy hats and they're
very stereotypical
very
Texas
very Texas men walking around and they're howdy, and then you got the music going is a what are those bands called, mariachi band playing, and they're hola. They actually pronounced it hola, not ola. It's hola. I love the emphasis on the H. It was just hilarious. Then they get there, and then the one guy that they're trying to the main guy they were actually trying to recruit the whole time. They mispronounce his name. So the movie says that it's David Latin. It's not right. It's David Latine.
Oh.
Yes.
I wonder why they made that change because
they called him Lapin throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. And they had Don Haskins himself makes a cameo in the movie, so I would assume that he would make sure they changed that,
You would think.
It might have been a directorial decision, or they just didn't really.
I doubt it's a fluke. I doubt it's got to be intentional for some reason.
Yeah.
That stuff doesn't really get past most people.
Right.
Yeah. Especially if you're the person that this movie's about is in the movie himself.
Right. Well, and I mean, it also could be even if Don Haskins knew. I mean, he was pretty old at the time the movie came out.
Yeah, he did die 2 years after the movie came out.
Right. So he may have not realized.
Yeah.
So, and plus he only made one appearance in the movie. He was at a gas station.
Yeah, it's just a cameo, blink and you miss it.
Right, exactly. So David Latine shows up, but we'll call him David Latin.
That's what they call him in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. So he shows up in a car, a sick car, by the way.
Mm.
He opens the door, and then all the other black guys come out, and they're like, "Dang, man!" One guy, Orson Artis, like puts out his hand to like shake his hand. David Latin just puts his suitcase right in his hand.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty funny.
It was pretty funny.
That was pretty funny.
And Willie Worsley and all them. No, Willie Worsley was the guy who went up to him to try and shake his hand, and then Orson was the one who said, Willie got really mad because I think he put the suitcase back in his car, and then Willie Worsley goes, I'm gonna tear this guy apart. And it's like, Orson's like, no, you're not, because it's gonna take five guys your height to rip
Three
the guy.
guys your height.
Three guys your height to
Yeah.
rip the boy's picture in half.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of times where all of the black players are like joking around and like making fun of each other, like calling each other names.
But it's all in good fun. Like you
But, yeah,
definitely
it's-
tell that they all are respectful to each
Right,
other.
exactly. And then so in the lunchroom when they actually meet, so the whole scene. I'm not going to go into what all the black players said to each other because it's hilarious. But Neville Shedd wants a hot dog or hot doggo. He doesn't get a hot doggo. He only gets nacho. The only option are nacho, taco, and burrito.
Yes.
It is a great scene.
And it just drags on. Hot dog. Oh.
Yeah, he actually pronounces it as hot doggo. Nacho.
Burrito.
So, and then they sit down with. It's kind of weird that they would sit with the team. Obviously, they must have met the other players before this, but they sit down at the same table as the other players who are both Mexican and the white players. And then Jerry Armstrong, Austin Nichols, is the one who is like kind of like looking down the table to see the other players, and the black players. Obviously, they've realized that what he's doing, and they're like, "What are you looking at?" And then there's a lot of like back and forth between Jerry Armstrong, Willie Cager, and Harry Flournoy, because they're trying to show each other up now. There's really no respect level right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of tension, and Jerry Armstrong's like, he kind of gives like his credentials. He's like, I'm the starting forward, or I'm starting forward. And Harry Flournoy stands up. It's like, no, I'm the starting forward. And yeah, Jerry Armstrong, he takes a bite of an apple and he shoots it into a trash can. Harry Flournoy crunches a milk carton while looking at Jerry, shoots it into the same trash can. No look.
From farther away too.
Exactly. And then it cuts to them playing basketball in the cafeteria with 2 trash cans and a head of lettuce.
The head of lettuce was great.
Yeah. It's just like out of everything in the lunchroom, you grabbed the lettuce.
A head of lettuce. There you go. So then the cafeteria lady has to ruin it and calls Ross, who is the spiritual advisor.
It was mega chaos anyways. I don't know if she ruined much.
Yeah, it was mega chaos in there, so.
But they were all having fun. She should have let them have their
I don't
fun.
know if it was fun or just really hardcore racial tension.
It was a lot of both.
Like, if we're being honest.
I think the fun was when
The basketball.
when they were shooting the film with the cast.
Oh, yeah.
But how it would be if it was real life, if it actually happened in real life,
it'd be a lot more physical than it was.
It would be a lot more racially
Charged.
Yeah, racially charged. So after that, Ross comes in. It's like, you're messing around like a bunch of kindergarten kids, and tells them to clean the place up. then we start getting into the more basketball aspect. They're going to practice, and they finally meet the coach. Well, black players meet the janitor, who tell them that he was a girls basketball coach before this, and they're like,
Something
wait.
he neglected to tell them earlier.
Right, exactly. They're like, wait, what? And they're like, okay, well, then they go out. It seems like they meet Don for the first time, and Don tells them the rules, his expectations, and it's like, you're gonna play basketball my way. My way's hard. And Bobby's like, as long as your guard's wearing a skirt, right? And then they get to run. And run. And run.
And then run some more, too.
And run some more.
They do a majority of the beginning basketball scenes are just them running.
Yeah.
It is kind of their fault, though. He puts down his...
Oh, it's true.
He put down his rule. He says, no girls, no booze, no trouble.
Exactly.
You are going to be here. You're going to play basketball.
And that's it. You're gonna play basketball, and you're gonna go to school, and that's it.
And I don't want to hear, no, I'm hurt, I'm bleeding. No, the only thing I want to hear is the basketball dribbling on the floor.
Exactly. You're not gonna talk. You're not gonna do anything. I just want to hear the basketball bounce.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Powerful words.
Exactly. That any good coach just wants their players just to play basketball.
The respect.
Exactly. It's a respect level. Like, you're going to respect me like you respect everyone else.
Mm-hmm. And he has another reason for it. Like, he brings up his father in this scene. Like, you respect me.
No, he brings up his father way later on.
I thought he brought it up now.
I don't remember that. It may be in there, but
he does it at some point. He says, my rules are the same respect level that you have for me is the same respect I had for my father and for this game.
But the other players don't really know that. The only player that they actually focused on at that point was Bobby.
Yeah,
that's the later scene.
He's kind of
we'll kind of get to that. I'll kind of touch on that for a little bit later.
And he's kind of more of the main character out of all of the guys on the team that they focus on. Yeah. He gets the most development.
Yeah. So after that whole scene and after all the running scenes, it cuts to them after practice, and Bobby's like, okay, we're going to go out. We're going to get in trouble. We're going to get drunk, and we're going to go do this, this, and this. In, what's that town? Juarez, Mexico. So they crossed the border, probably illegally. So they went there. They went to a bar there, and then that's where we meet Tina. And Tina and Bobby have an interaction for the first time. Who later on we figure out what Tina actually will be. So, and it really wasn't a good impression for Tina for Bobby. Well, Tina's impression of Bobby wasn't really great.
But she also had her own hang-ups by what her mom told her.
Right. Her mom had told her everything about, well, what she thought black men were about, and Bobby's like, well, I'm not that. And so we kind of leave it there. Then it goes back to more then we go to the morning. So we got morning practice, and Don's like, "Cómo estás, everybody?" Willie burps. Don's like, "What was that, son? I didn't get that." And then asks Bobby, like, "Don't you speak Mexican?" And Bobby's like, kind of obviously looking tired. And then Don's like, "Did the evil worm bite you last night, or was it something else?" I'm quoting the movie now.
Did he say that you speak Mexican, or did he say
he said
you speak
Spanish?
Spanish.
Okay,
My bad.
want to clarify.
My bad. Spanish, yes. And then what do they get to do?
It's just more running.
Run, exactly.
Even the people who didn't do anything,
Exactly. Even
who stayed home.
Yes, got to run. Then it's more like basketball practice and all of that. And then we kind of like start to realize one of the weaker players of the team, Neville Shed, and Don kind of rides him a lot. Tells him that the lady down at Dairy Queen is
Stronger than
you. Basically, and then tells him like you wake up like a duck, a different person every day. And then it goes to Shed in his dorm room. Don comes in, and he's like, what are you doing? And then starts packing up a suitcase. Tells him, you're going home.
In the morning.
Like, yeah, you're going home. And, like, he's already got a bus ticket for him. All of that. He's like, here's a bus ticket. Like, you're going. Like
2 days before the season starts.
Exactly. 2 days before the season even starts.
Well, and this is because
of the fact that he wasn't contributing a whole lot during practice.
And he was kind of, he would get hurt and say, ow, ow.
Well, yeah, he wasn't being strong enough. He wasn't trying to defend himself.
He wasn't showing that the real skill he had.
Right,
he was not putting on the court.
Exactly. So that makes him like want to compete even harder.
It lights his fire.
Exactly. So we get to all the other players in practice minus Shed, but we see him walk into the gym on his own, and then team like breaks the huddle. They start practice, and coach is like, "So what are you still doing here?" Shed's like, "I want to play." He's like, "No." Don's like, "No, you're not. You're not playing." Kind of waiting for Shed to like have that fire,
have that moment,
and then we see him have that fire, and then it cuts to them like doing it in a scrimmage, and Shed goes in strong to the basket and gets knocked down, hurts his nose, and then David Lattin's like, "That's how you play." And then Shed gets up, tries to start running away. Ross is already over there looking at his nose because he's bleeding all over the place. And so they go into
on the rental floor. If you've seen a review of The Fabelmans, you'll get that joke.
No, they won't because we never brought it up. If they've seen The Fabelmans, they'll get it. So you just like broke a fifth wall or something somehow. I don't even know how you did that.
Anyway.
Oh man. So then it goes to then Shed runs out in a catcher's mask and two tissues or something in his nose, stopping the blood because he's not going to the doctor and he wants to be with the team and he wants to continue practice. And then so after that, season starts. First game's against Eastern New Mexico, and obviously, Don has told him we're going to play fundamental basketball. There's a certain like standard I want you to play by. And Bobby was like, I don't want to play this way. Like, and he basically says, we can't play this way either because we only know one way to play. He's like, let us loose. And coach is like, no. The movie makes it look like they're absolutely terrible offensively and defensively, like they can't do anything. And it takes Bobby telling, not telling, but asking coach in a timeout, like, just let us play our game. And Don goes, okay, you can play your game, but you're also going to play mine. So after that, they go out and they actually start playing a lot better.
It's an immediate turnaround.
It's almost immediate. It's like they knew what they were doing. No, the first game it was easy win against Eastern New Mexico, and then it goes to Iowa was when it's like let us play our game because they were down 16 and a half. Then they were down 21 in the second half at one point. So they came back from a 21-point deficit after that timeout to beat number 4 Iowa in that game.
Is this the one where they won?
Where they won by 1.
But they didn't actually?
No, that was the first game. The first game was the one that he was talking about earlier, how it like showed that like they won by a substantial amount more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the first game against Eastern New Mexico, I think it was like 7 points or something like that. I forget what the score of that game was, but they won by a handed margin. And I'll explain more of that later in like the I don't know when, but later.
Okay.
So the next game that they show is Iowa. That's when they start playing better. They overcome a 21-point deficit at one point to win by 1. And I'll explain more of that later. And that's when they start actually winning games. And it just kind of like cuts through in music and like almost highlights, but not really highlights of the game, and like
Montage type deal?
like a montage and newspaper clippings about the different games and who they've played.
Mm-hmm.
Played Arizona State, Fresno State, and a lot of lower teams back then too. Then let's see. Next one was
Christmas time, right?
yeah, it was Christmas time, and I don't remember the team that they had played the night before.
They were going out to Seattle was when the whole thing ends. They're 17-0 now, and that's like their big, like huge deal. And they go out to Seattle, and they're getting ready to play.
Yeah, they must have.
Because they montage through most of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was after. I think it was after like some game they play. Again, I don't remember what game it actually was, but yeah, it's Christmas time. They're at a diner. They're all ordering pancakes, and it makes it seem like it's like breakfast time.
Mm-hmm.
So they all order like Neville Shed's like, I don't know what they got, but just order me some pancakes and something with sauce on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And he walks to the bathroom because
Gotta go to the bathroom.
Exactly. And then we got four white guys that come in.
3 white guys.
3?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was 4.
No, it's just 3.
It
The
was
one
3?
dude's peeing the whole time. They're trying to beat him up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one guy goes to the bathroom, and the other guys are just standing and waiting.
Because they walk in behind him.
Exactly.
They follow him in.
And we find out that they're not just
Using the bathroom.
They're not just using the bathroom. That they're there to but beat up Neville Shed, which it's kind of weird. It kind of drives home that like the movie made Neville Shed look weak, and he was the one who got beat up, and it wasn't any other character.
Mm-hmm.
So I just gave a deep dive right there. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
After all that, the 3 guys walk out. Neville Shed comes out. He's covered in pee. He's covered in blood.
Because they dunk him in this.
And they dunked him in the toilet.
That the guy was peeing in.
Yeah. Which I get is gross.
Yeah.
So.
But that's what happened in the times.
People
did.
Yeah, exactly.
Even worse things.
I mean, even worse back then. So Shed walks out. He's covered in pee, covered in blood. And he's kind of like out of it too. Like he doesn't really know what happened, but he knows he's not okay.
He collapses in one of the players' arms when they go to help him.
Exactly. A couple of the players go over to help him. And then David Lattin, and then I really don't. Actually, I can find who it is.
Mo.
No, it wasn't Mo. It was Louis Bodine, the tall forward for the team. Who was white, the tall white guy with the glasses. With the goggles, yeah. So those 2 walk out like they're like
ready to.
They want blood,
Mm-hmm.
and so they walk out of the diner looking for whoever did it. The team they get up, they start going to the bus. Mo tells them to get on the bus. Willie's like, we're not getting on the bus. And Mo's like, yeah, you are. So they go out to Seattle. Actually, no, they don't go out to Seattle because then they go to Eastern New Mexico, East Texas State. This is the next game they go to before Seattle.
Because they stop at that motel.
Exactly. They stop in a motel. Although they're in a motel, they play the game. They come back to the motel after East Texas State, and then they find their at least two of the black players find their room covered in blood.
No, we're skipping something. There's a game that we missed because that's when they're on. That's when they're going to the Final Four.
No.
No, because they go
No.
they go in the room, and they see the blood and everything's tattered. And then when the coach gets in there, he says, "Nope, we're going to go to Seattle tonight. We're going tonight.
That's when
Just
they go to
get
Seattle.
back on the bus. We're going tonight."
Yeah, that's when they go out to Seattle.
Because it's
I
dangerous
feel as
for
if
them.
we're missing something, but go ahead.
I mean, we may be missing something.
We may, and that's fine. We're getting
we're not gonna get.
we're getting to the big moments.
Yeah. So, yeah, they find their room covered in their clothes covered in blood, and then stuff on the wall that I actually cannot say out loud.
And you really shouldn't say anything.
And I really shouldn't say it at all. So, yeah, Don makes it up like we're going to Seattle tonight. So they get on the bus, they go out to Seattle, which they actually lose that game. Then I have more facts on that actually, because they lose by what seems to be like, I think it was 7 points out in Seattle, and the coach is pretty furious. Like, you all stunk out there tonight, and he's like, Mo could play better, but he calls him, I think, Squeegee. Could play better defense than you guys. And then you start realizing that there's actually racial tension going on between the team because of what happened to Shed at the diner.
Which I thought that was kind of a little like jarring that happened. I understand why, but when they run outside of the diner to fight these guys, it's not just the black players. It's the white players are there too.
Right,
they're right next to each other.
Exactly.
And they go like they're one and the same. They don't see color. They just see, oh, you're my teammate.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought it was kind of weird that like this huge juxtaposition happened. I don't know if it was through the white players feeling the same way. I think it was just the fear of being hurt by white people was the catalyst,
probably.
And they might not have meant it towards their players, but there's easily the white players are right there.
Right.
They're easy to blame.
At that time for the black players too, it almost seemed like they got lost in color.
Yes.
Like they just started seeing color after that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you're white. Okay, we're black.
You destroyed our motel room. You beat up my friend. You're all the same.
Yes, I'll say your kind is the one that came in and destroyed our room, put blood on our clothes and writing on the wall. You're all of that. You're against us, and so we're against you.
Yeah, and Armstrong comes in and says some things that they might seem right in his head, but they were not delivered correctly at all.
Oh, no, he's like, it feels like we're in the minority talking about all the white players, and it's like, dude.
It came from the right place, but he didn't say the right things.
Exactly. So he says that, and the black players are like, dude, you are completely wrong. Mm-hmm. And so Don's like,
Mecca Brooks, I think he even says, you've been the minority for 6 months. I've been a minority my whole life.
Exactly. And just kind of like just rips him. And then Ross is like, you guys, this sounds worse than losing the game. And then Don's like, hold your heads up. It's like, if you want to shut the people up, just win. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So then it cuts to Final Four. Well, NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm. Top 4.
They're in the Elite 8 game against Kansas. And it was a great game. A lot of back and forth between Bobby Joe and I don't have Kansas's
Joe White, I think, or something.
JoJo White. Yeah, JoJo White.
This is the same guy he tried to recruit at the beginning of the movie, right?
No, this is a different character.
Okay.
They happened to be black, and Kansas got him, but he was an all-star.
Okay. I thought this was that character that he tried to recruit at the beginning that said...
no, that was for East Texas State.
Oh, okay.
And and I kind of skipped over that point. Sorry, my bad. But anyway, back to the Elite 8 against Kansas. Bobby Joe and JoJo White are going back and forth, scoring the ball, and it was great. I think one of the refs had it in for Texas Western just because of the color. A lot of iffy calls during
and
the
a
movie.
blatantly wrong call.
Yeah. So we get the end of regulation, goes to overtime. The Texas Western forces overtime. So in the final bits of the first overtime period, we see David Lattin dunk the ball, and so
Clean shot.
Oh yeah, while he's on the rim, like you hear the whistle right after he like dunks the ball too, and almost like they were gonna call it like he was gonna call it anyway, so they call hanging on the rim, which is an automatic technical foul. Basket will count, and then the other team gets two free
throws to tie it up.
2 free throws, exactly. So JoJo White, they get to pick who shoots the ball too. So JoJo White gets to shoot. He makes them both, and we go to double overtime. So double overtime. Texas Western is up by 1. JoJo White has the ball in the final seconds. He's right on the edge, and he drains a shot right at the buzzer. But in the movie, you see him step on the sideline before he shoots the ball.
And then he pivots back in before he shoots.
And then he goes back in, he shoots the ball, drains it. Kansas fans and their players are all celebrating, and then the ref comes in. He's like, "Nope, he stepped on the line. Game's over."
You think he's not going to call it? You think it's going to be
right?
Another
Exactly.
loss?
Right. Exactly. You think that's where you think it's going to be like some like boring, sad movie about really nothing at that point. Then, so Texas Western wins, 81-80 in double overtime. They move on to the final 4. But it moves them on to then the national championship because they skip one of the games. I don't know why, but that's Hollywood. So they're now in national championship game in Maryland, College Park, Maryland. It's actually on the campus of the University of Maryland where they were playing. So that the field house that they played in is actually gone, but it's actually where Maryland plays basketball now.
Okay.
So fun fact. Cole Fieldhouse is actually where it was. But they play Kentucky, who is number 1 at the time, powerhouse school. They've won a lot of championships. They were favored to win that year too. And they have arguably at that point the best coach in college basketball, Adolph Rupp. And so there's a press interview with the 4 head coaches before the national championship game, and one of the guys, reporters out there, is like, "What do you guys think of Bobby Joe Hill?" And Rupp is like, "Oh, he's a good boy." And then you hear Don go, "Well, that good boy just led us to 23-1 in the regular season," and we start getting the tension between the coaches, like, well, and then Rupp goes, "Well, it's like, well, here at Kentucky, we don't worry about the other boys. We just play our game." And then we kind of get it back and forth. And then it also, Don's wife is in some, looks like a party with all the other coaches, some of the coaches' wives and other people
from
there.
the community.
Probably all the, like,
moms,
higher ups of the universities. All there, and so she's kind of overhearing the some other women talking about Don and how he's a terrible person for playing black men, for one, and they look over at her. They're like, "Oh, so who are you?" She's like, "I'm Mary Haskins. I'm married to that horrible man you were just talking about," and then walks away. And then I think it goes back to Don at the interview too. And it kind of cuts to the Texas Western players watching the interview on TV. And then we get Mary Haskins kind of like sitting alone at what looks to be like a long table. Another woman comes in, very, very Southern accent. I mean, heavy Southern accent. It was like, "Don't pay him any mind. that's just probably how they were raised. And a lot of like a short back and forth, and then we figure out who that other lady is, and she's Adolf Rupp's wife.
Which is interesting to see that she's so on the other side. I was really expecting her to be gaslighting her a little bit.
Right, exactly. You would think that, but she was very kind. She was like, don't even worry about him. And then Don and his wife are outside, and they're staring at a poster of Adolf Rupp, and Don's like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. And then Mary's like, this is not about basketball anymore. Because I actually did leave out that the fact that Mary was getting basically death threats and other letters that she would throw away. Well, that Don would get, but she would read them first and wouldn't even show him to Don. And then at one point, she kind of like breaks down and shows him all the letters. He's like, "How many of these have you gotten?" He's like, "A lot." And she's like, "I get a lot, but I just throw them away before."
He says, "Is this the first one?" And she's like, "No, I've been getting them forever."
Exactly. And he's like, "How am I supposed to protect you if I don't know what's going on?" So I left that part out. That's my bad. So back to that the national championship. So it goes to Don going to the bathroom, and there's two white guys in there. Well, technically three, but two guys in there using the bathroom too. But Don overhears them bad mouthing all the players, calling them like they shouldn't be there, like all that. I forget what actually they say, but
they say some unrepeatable things.
Right, exactly.
And the one guy turns around, sees him, and says, "Hey, you need to stop saying."
Yeah, you need to basically shut up.
We need to stop real quick because they've been caught. And the one guy still in the stall has no idea that Don is in the bathroom. Says, "No, I'm just getting started. Wait till you hear what I have to say."
Right, exactly. And then it goes to all the players in the room. Well, it goes to Don walking around the arena on the floor, just kind of looking around and just kind of like, you could tell he was figuring out what he wanted to say, and just kind of like taking it all in. And then it goes through all the, like some of the different players in their room in bed, just kind of like talking back and forth to each other. And Bobby was the only chill one. He's like, it's just a game, just another game. Mm-hmm. And then they get the call, obviously, to meet Don at the arena. So it goes to that, and Don basically repeats everything that the players have heard and he's heard throughout the season. You're a bunch of nobodies. You don't belong here. And some other kind of unrepeatable things, but it wasn't as bad as what.
But it wasn't said in a bad sense. It was said to light the fire, because the players, when he says something that I'm not going to say right now, but all the players turn around and look at him like, "Did you really just say that?"
Oh yeah.
But he didn't say it to be manipulative. He said it to say, like, no matter what you've heard, you know that you heard me say it and you can't believe I've said it. You don't think I don't believe that from you. So why are you believing it from everybody else?
Right. He basically, they've heard that. Well, Don kind of makes a comparison, but he's personally not making it. He like compares them as athletes to monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they like all of the players turn around. It's like, what did you just say? Like, did you really just say that? Mm-hmm. And then he's like, do you still believe that? And I'm tired of hearing the same old BS. Mm-hmm. And then that's when he makes the decision. Well, I don't think it was at that point. I think he already made that decision previous, but he made a decision of playing 7 players, and that's it. And he lists off all the black players. And
he sincerely apologizes to the white players. He says, "I'm sorry. I know how hard you worked to get here, but right now, this is what needs to be done."
Right. He's like 5 starters, 2 subs, 40 minutes, 7 players, only playing the black players. And apologizes to all the other players because it wasn't just the black players that got them to the national championship game.
Yeah, everybody
it was,
worked.
It was the whole team who had sprung them to that game. And Jerry Armstrong is like, it's like he doesn't want to lie. He's like I don't want to lie, coach. I want to play. And then just kind of like,
But he sees what
the point. I think he finally realizes like, oh, this is what's going on. It's like
it's bigger than just him.
It's bigger than just the game, and it's bigger than just him. And so he kind of like gives a like pump up speech to the players.
Yeah, he
to the black players.
He accepts it and says,
yep.
"No, this isn't what he wants to do. It's what needs to be done."
Right.
And I agree 100%.
Right. And he tells Flournoy that if he doesn't get back and rebound, that he's going to be all over his black butt. and then we get right into the national championship game. So Texas Western comes out, and the camera angle we get is them running out of the tunnel with how we see as Kentucky fans, and they're all holding
drinks, cups, whatever.
Well, flags.
Oh, that too. But is this also the game where they were dumping all the drinks on them?
No, that was a
that was
different.
the previous game.
That was an earlier game.
Kansas. That was the Kansas. That was the one that they lost.
That was the game before they lost to Seattle.
Oh, okay. There's one.
Where they start dumping all the drinks and they get in the fight, and then they say, "You don't need to listen to them. Just get going.
Right,
get out on the court."
Yeah.
Okay.
So, in that championship game, the first thing we see is them Texas Western run on the floor, and all of the fans of Kentucky are all holding the flag.
The Confederate flag?
Well, technically, no. It's the rebel flag.
Yeah.
They're all holding that and waving it, and then Kentucky runs out on the floor, and then get warm-ups, and then both coaches kind of meet at center court, but Rupp is like, I really don't want to be shaking your hand right now.
There's animosity.
There's a lot of animosity there. There's a lot of tension, and he's like, have a good game. And he like, the handshake it's not a close handshake. It is a like reach just to shake person's hand. Then we get going during the game, and game starts off. Texas Western wins the tip, and first basket for them is a dunk. I mean, right off the bat, and it's like, we'll talk about a tone setter. So that kind of starts the whole how the game's going to go for Texas Western and for the whole game. And it was almost I'll give more backstory on the game, but so a lot of back and forth on the game, and you can tell that when the starting lineups were announced that Rupp was not happy, that it was
all black players,
and you can tell he was like, okay, and I love that it's like it was basically it turned into black versus white on the court,
and it also kind of started with a few games prior. The crowds, when they did the calling off the starters, the two white players went first and everyone was cheering, and then right when they called, I think it was Bobby Hill, then it was silent.
No, that was
the only person clapping was the other teammates on the bench and Don. Nobody in the crowd. It was
right, because
immediate.
That was the first game of the year. Two white players get introduced, and then the three black players. The only people clapping, Don, Mo, Ross. That's it. Everyone else is like, who are these players? And
we don't need to be cheering for them. They're not.
Right, exactly. Who are they? What are they doing here? And that's another thing I left out, man. So back to the championship game. It's a lot of back and forth. David Lattin gets 3 fouls in the first half. Has to go out. So Willie Cager comes in to take his place.
And, Harry gets injured
Oh,
out.
yeah,
Injured out. So they
that's-
have both of their subs
That's
are
right.
out
yeah.
too.
Yeah, Harry gets hurt. And then so Shed's got to take his place. And so basically they're playing with 6 players now because Harry's out. So it's 6 players. It's 1 sub and 5 star and 5 people on the court. So first half ends with Texas Western's up by 1 because Pat Riley hits a shot at the buzzer to make it a 3-point game. So it's 34-31 at half. We come out of halftime, and then they show Kentucky go on a run, start the half. And then we kind of see how good of a coach Don is, because he just slowly motivates them to just keep playing and keep fighting. And then we kind of see the 2 aspects of the coaches. Don, the more sincere coach, and then Rupp, the more in your face, not a coach I would play for kind of a guy.
He's all about himself.
Yeah, he's all
He
about
puts it in a way that seems more like, oh, this is for you guys too. This is for you guys too. But if you listen to what he says, you're probably gonna bring it up later. There's a quote from him that it just, no matter what he said, that one thing, it just turns it all around. He's not there for the players. He's not there for the school. He's not even there for the crowd.
Right. Exactly.
He's there for one thing, and that's himself.
That's himself and winning and money. And we'll get to that quote for later on in the game. And then so again, a lot of back and forth, and then we start to see the skill level for Texas Western kind of take over, because there's a lot of fancy passes you really probably wouldn't see back in that day. And then
But these days you see them
a
every
lot.
single game.
Right, yeah, exactly. So leading up to the final timeout with 2:04, so Bobby Joe Hill gets a steal. Ball's starting to go out of bounds. So he saves it behind the back, by the way, which happens, the side of the court happens to be on his Kentucky side. So he kind of not really runs into, but kind of tackles Rupp to his chair.
Yeah, it's when it originally starts his movement, it's just intentional to get the ball to his players. But as he realizes where he's going and the momentum he has, he's like, "No, I'm gonna go full into this."
He goes all out, and
they'll take it as an accident. It's fine.
Exactly. So he takes Rupp down to his seat. It's nothing bad. It just forces him to kind of like sit down, and then he gives him a stare really quick as you see cameras flashing, old cameras flash, and then I forget who catches the ball. No, Cager catches the ball, throws it off the backboard to David Lattin for a one-handed jam. It's just spectacular. And then so we get the final. No, that was way before the final timeout. So it's final timeout, then that sequence. So we'll jump back to the final timeout with 2:04. And Don basically says, we got 2 minutes to win a national championship. We need to just go out and take it. That's basically, if you want to sum it down, that's all he said.
He said everything that he needs to say. They know what they're playing.
Right,
they know the game. There's nothing he can tell them that's like, well, just play out there, play hard. No, they're here for it. That's what they're
exactly. And then we go over to the other side, and Rupp says, like, all season long, like we've found it. It's like everyone's here had success, and he kind of points around at certain people. And then, so here's the line. It's like, we're going to win this game. We're going to win this game, so go out and make me profit. Because that's all he's looking for.
And you heard that right. Profit, not proud.
Profit.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he's looking for, because he knows that he's going to get another bonus to his paycheck, and that's all he wants is money. He doesn't care about the players. Well, that's how the movie portrays him. As
Because you got to have that villain.
right.
You gotta spin it just a little bit.
Right, and then we go to the great sequence of Bobby stealing the ball and then alley-oop off the backboard, and that's in what the movie portrays it as the final seconds of the game. Kentucky takes the last court, a heave from beyond half court, doesn't even go in at all, and then so we get the celebration of Texas Western winning the national championship game. So that's basically a blown out version of a summarized plot. So any deep dives here? I have a bunch, but
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the one thing that really stands out, especially with sports movies, because you can never really have, I guess with sports movies like this, it's hard to have like a set antagonist. Like you don't have like a Darth Vader in a sports movie. Like you have each team is almost their own antagonist, and then
Especially when it's a real life story.
Right, exactly. So then you like know that each team they're going up against is kind of this new enemy to overcome. But the overarching theme of the whole movie is obviously a look at racism, right? And racism is the ultimate villain of the movie. But there's some very powerful scenes just throughout the whole film of people just realizing that, like, especially on the team, like all of the white players realizing that, you know what, this is bigger than me. Like this is far bigger than anything I could ever do. And the black players realizing that the opportunity they have is something that most people will never have. I loved there's shots at the end of the film where the game is going on and there are like I think they're just, I don't know what city they're in or anything, but there's just these black children just watching this TV from like outside these windows, and like they're looking into this TV shop, I think, of some sort, and they're watching the game on these TVs, and they're just like so enthralled by the film, and it's so powerful to show how those idols can become very inspirational in your own life. And I just thought that in the sense of, I guess, that deep dive right on the racism behind the film, or not behind the film, but that the film discusses more than anything, it's just very powerful, and the story for the time had to be crazy. I mean, I can't imagine what it would have been like to live through the time where this actually took place. I mean, the movie's powerful in itself, but the actual story is like got to be 10 times more powerful, right? And so I think that's just it's just a really well done aspect of the film that it's always hinted at. You always know it's there, but it's just portrayed well enough to where you can sense the change over time. You can sense the ending where you just see all of their hard work pays off, and you see that it's not about always winning something, but it's about winning these battles in society rather than they got a national championship, that's great, but the message that they left with that national championship was far more important. Right, it's far more important than anything they could ever think of. But that's my deep dive, really.
Well, it's like, it's not really a deep dive for me, but it's like, I'll extend. It's like, even during that, with the kids watching on the TV, you get the different groups of all the black people watching the game, and you even get the black Kentucky students, well, probably some of the black Kentucky students in one of the dorms watching the game, and they were cheering for Texas Western, and you kind of see it. It's like, because at one point it's like, I think it was after one of the dunks or something. They all stand up and start cheering, and they're like, "Oh crap, we're Kentucky students, so we really can't be cheering too loud, because they probably get out
right
pretty quickly." So that's also, it's like you see, it's like the kids at the watching it on outside the window on the TV. It's like they weren't the only ones cheering for Texas Western at that time too. So
yeah, for sure.
Jared, got any deep dives?
I think I really got like everything I got out of the movie when we were talking about the.
Talking about the plot.
Yeah.
Okay.
My chiming in is pretty much my.
Okay. So I really don't have a lot of deep dives. I just have more of like facts on the actual
real life people.
real life. Well, not real life people, but act like what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I said one. They mispronounced David Lattin's name. It's David Latine. So they actually, and then instead of beating Iowa by 1, they beat Iowa by 18.
See, that's just crazy to me. Like, I feel like I don't understand why
You would
the game
change
had
it.
to be so close. Because I feel like it's and maybe it changes the message of the story slightly, but I feel like it only benefits the story to do that, right? Like to show that this team. I don't know.
I think
That's
it was
also
more like
in
a
their-
Hollywood, like make it
Right.
closer for you to get more.
With a thrill of the,
Yeah, but
of
they could've-
basketball experience.
But they could have picked to not show that game and shown a closer game.
They could have. Yeah,
But-
it's interesting.
But it's all in the end. It's all whatever.
Well,
like the message gets through no matter what.
I think it also they wanted to give probably more Iowa more credit than what they were actually deserved in the game, because obviously if you beat the number 14 by 18 points, you're like, well, let's not really make it. Let's not really show the game. Let's show it as a 1-point game to make it look more thrilling than probably what it actually was.
right.
So they probably gave them that. They actually played them not in. It wasn't. It was actually in the Sun Bowl tournament, and that's actually it still happens at UTEP during the week of the Sun Bowl, which is for college football. It's a bowl game that's played on the campus of Texas Western,
Gotcha. Okay.
and the stadium's actually named the Sun Bowl.
Oh,
No, that's
okay.
cool.
So there's some facts right there.
Right.
So they also played Seattle twice that year. They played them once at home, and they won by 15 points. And then they played them out at Seattle, and they, instead of losing by, I think the movie portrays them losing by 7 or something like that, they actually lost by 2. 74-72.
Wow. I don't remember what the score is now.
Yeah, I don't really remember what the
It
score
seems
is.
like it was not 2 though. See, that seems weird to me too, because then that's like a thriller type game too, right? Like,
Mhm.
why have it be?
Well, I think why they made it more than 2 points is to kind of show the tension going on between the players and how they weren't gelling anymore.
That's
and
fair.
It's like
yeah.
they made it seem worse than it actually was,
Yeah,
which probably had more.
more to do with
More to
the
do with,
entertainment
like-
side of it than the.
Well, the entertainment side, but also like during the times too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, Texas Western jumped right into the top 10, not even top 25, when they got to 11-0, and then slowly worked their way up to number 2 in the country, and then they went on the road to New Mexico State the game before they played Seattle instead of East Texas State. So the East Texas State was the second game of the year.
Oh.
So that game, that team was the team that they faced at East Texas State. How they portray it in Hollywood.
Okay.
But that was the game where they got stuff thrown at them, drinks poured on them, and all that stuff.
Okay.
So that was the second game of the year. And they didn't play them on the road; they played them at home.
That's strange.
Yeah.
But from what I remember, they show most of the games as away games.
Yeah, some of them.
The ones that really stand out because they're
Yeah,
after the one they get on the bus,
yeah,
and then the one at the diner, and then the one when they're at the
and then when they
the
lose,
motel, and
right.
the final game isn't even at home. They
Right.
get on, just they really show like, even though they probably didn't do that in real life, it shows the point of the movie of the racial tension. It follows them wherever they go.
Right.
Right.
It's not just, oh, you're at home this week, so you're safe. No, they probably still had just as much trouble at home with their own people than they did in other schools.
Right. And then you also have visiting people too. Like
Yeah.
It's not like you're just home and you're fine, especially in something like that. Like you're home and there's still other people who show up. Like it's not just, so.
And then it was true that they actually had a shot to be the number 1 team because Kentucky did lose a couple of days before they played New Mexico State. So they actually had a shot to be the number 1 team, but they never got a chance. They faced So they faced Kansas in the Elite Eight in Lubbock, Texas, and that's where Texas Tech is located, fun fact, and then moved on to the Final Four after beating Kansas, and the other three were Utah, which probably surprised a lot of people at that point, and then two of the blue bloods nowadays, Kentucky, obviously, and then Duke.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I saw
Kentucky played Duke in their game, and then Texas Western beat Utah the game before the national championship game. Beat them by 7 points. So I don't even have to say that. And then they played Kentucky, led by Pat Riley. Yes, Pat Riley, who coached the LA Lakers and now is the owner of the Miami Heat. So yeah. So in the national championship game, as I said, he starts the 7 black players. So 5 starters, 2 subs, and that was the first time that has ever happened in a championship game in basketball. So the first half was actually right, the score-wise, 34-31, and then second half, Miners actually had a 9-point lead at one point. The final score is actually right to 72-65. I thought this was cool. The Miners went to the free throw line 27 times. Went 26 for 27.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
Just shows that's their skill level.
Exactly. And then for my deep dive, but it's actually a fun fact too. So the win actually helped promote the SEC to desegregate. SEC, that's the Southeastern Conference, the conference that Kentucky's in. And so I thought that was really cool. It's like, wow. Because Kentucky, Adolph Rupp, I think, retires a couple years later. Kentucky's next head coach, black, wins a national championship in his first year.
Well, and also Rupp recruited a black player.
He recruited his
the
first
very
black,
next year.
Yeah, the very next year.
Yeah.
Then I think he retired the year after or something, and then
the new guy.
Yeah, the new guy, and he wins the national championship in his first year.
There was one thing I forgot to say that I really like to quote. It was when I think it's in the final game. He's talking to I don't remember who he's talking to. You might need to help me with the name on this, but I think it's Hill. I think it's Bobby Hill. He says, that guy over there is better it has more skill or something than you or whatever, but I would choose you 100 times out of 100 over him.
Right.
It's not exactly the quote I'm paraphrasing, but basically the point is he doesn't matter how good this other guy is, he would have picked you in the beginning because you have the heart.
Right.
Yeah, he's because it's Louis Dampier is who he's talking about. It was like he was an All-American and he was a good point guard, and he's like, yeah, Louis Dampier, he's going to burn you every time you go for the ball. So, and also if I had to pick between him and you, I'd choose you. And that's when Bobby goes, it's like, of course you would take me, Coach, because you know he wouldn't have taken me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's
Glory Road.
That's Glory Road in a long version.
Yeah. Do we want to give our ratings 1 out of 10?
Yeah, ratings 1 out of 10. Jared, what was your rating?
I'll probably give this a 8.5, 9. It was a very, very moving story. There was so many moments. Usually in sports movies or like realistic movies like this, you get one moving speech from the coach or the main character, whatever. You get one. And this you get like 7 or 8.
Right.
Like every time he talks to somebody, he's making a huge
statement.
Like not even to the people in real life and in the movie, it's to the audience too, because you can take so much away from everything he says. Even it was 66, even like 50 years later.
Yeah,
you're still the same things, same issues. You can still take these words that he's saying and put them into your own life. And I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with the 8.5. It's very wholesome. It leaves you just with a good feeling, and it's really even cool to see that because of this good feeling movie, like the changes that occurred. Like talks about Coach Rupp and stuff, but even knowing now that the SEC like worked to desegregate after this, that's incredible. I mean, that's huge, right? But the movie is just it's solid. I mean, I might even raise it to a 9. I think I'm kind of with you. It's like I can rewatch it. I wouldn't mind watching it again. It's a solid story. It's even better that it's a true story.
And you might get more out of it the second time you watch.
Yeah, and like you said, the lessons that it teaches and the things that it talks about, not that they're still as prevalent today,
but they're timeless.
They are timeless, and they're things that need to be talked about and remembered. And it's a very solid representation of that story and how people overcame that and how it can be overcome.
Mm-hmm.
So my rating, 1 out of 10, would be 9.6.
Oh, wow.
Only 4 spots under 10, just because Hollywood made the movie almost historically inaccurate.
Which is strange to me. I'm surprised they did all that change to it because I don't know.
And I don't think they would even they didn't have to, because the actual story is just.
But you got to remember, it was probably a board of directors and company people that, even if Jerry Bruckheimer or the director said, no, we need to keep it this way, they're like, we're paying you to make this movie. You're going to put the little bits in that we need because we need to make some money.
True.
Yeah.
And that's just how Hollywood works.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would give it a 9.6, and just if it was the actual true story, for me it would be a solid 10 out of 10.
And you'd say the true story is a 10 out of 10.
Oh, the true story is off is 10 out of 10.
There was one thing we did forget to talk about, though, and it was at the very beginning with Don playing basketball with his 2 sons.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Yeah. He passes the ball to his kid.
Bounce passes it to his son and hits him square in the nose, knocks him down, and he starts running to his mom. Yeah, he starts running,
and then the older kid was like, it wasn't me, it was Dad. He yells at his mom. Mm-hmm. And then
Dad says, "Way to switch sides."
Don goes, "Traitor."
Yeah.
The son responds, "I'm not getting in trouble unless I do something."
Yeah. No, the best response out of the whole thing.
Those are the only lines from the kids in the whole movie.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually.
But they're memorable, and then when you see them sitting with the mom in the stands during the games, you're like, "Yeah, I remember these kids. They don't have to do much." It's
right.
Just...
Well, you missed the best line from the kid. And the mom, when he runs up to his mom, and she's like, "You gotta catch it with your hands next time, not your face."
Oh,
catch it with your hands, not.
Yeah,
catch it with
your elbows. I don't know. She says something, but she says it was a joke. But
next time, don't catch it with your face.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a go then. That's a good. It had some good dialogue in it. Actually, I was impressed with that as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, cool. That's been Glory Road, reviewed by the Cup Jonas Show podcast. As always, stay caffeinated. We'll see you next time for episode 9. And I hope you're having a good day. Talk to you later.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Hey, everyone. We hope you enjoyed the episode today. If you did, you should go check out the rest of our episodes on our website at ccflugnutspodcast.com.
You can also listen to us wherever you find your podcasts.
Follow us on our Facebook and Instagram pages by searching the Lugnuts Podcast Group.
Thanks for listening, and remember, Jesus loves you, and so do we.